The message came through at 0600 hours, waking Ji-woo from a deep sleep. Her communicator buzzed 3 times, which meant urgent. She groaned and reached for it, squinting at the bright screen in her dark quarters. Dr. Taemin wanted to see her immediately. That was never good news. 15 minutes later, Ji-woo stood outside the chief medical officer's door, her uniform hastily straightened, her black hair pulled into a tight bun. She pressed the chime and waited. The door slid open with a soft hiss. Dr. Taemin sat behind his desk, looking like he had not slept in days. His eyes were bloodshot, and his normally neat appearance was disheveled. 2 cups of cold coffee sat on his desk, both half empty. He looked up when Ji-woo entered and gestured to the chair across from him. "Sit down, please," he said. His voice was tired. Ji-woo sat, folding her hands in her lap. She had worked on Galactic Medical Station Veritas 9 for 3 years now. And she had never seen Dr. Taemin look this stressed. The station orbited in neutral space, treating patients from dozens of species. It was usually calm, professional work, but something had changed. "I need to ask you something difficult," Dr. Taemin began. He pulled up a holographic display between them. The image showed a massive creature strapped to a medical bed. Ji-woo leaned forward, studying it. The being was enormous, nearly 3 meters tall, even lying down. Its body was covered in dark, chitinous armor that gleamed under the medical lights. 6 limbs, each ending in sharp claws. 4 eyes set in a broad, angular face. Bioluminescent markings ran along its body, pulsing with angry red light. "What is it?" Ji-woo asked. "A Valorian," Dr. Taemin said. "One of their warriors. There was a skirmish 3 days ago near the border. We do not know who attacked them, but this one survived. Barely. A Valorians. A Valorians." Ji-woo had heard of the Valorians. Everyone had. They were one of the most powerful military forces in the galaxy. Proud, fierce, and completely alien in their thinking. They rarely needed medical help because they rarely retreated from battle. The fact that one was here meant something terrible had happened. "What are his injuries?" Ji-woo asked. Dr. Taemin closed his eyes. "Severe. Multiple fractures. Internal damage. Neural trauma. But that is not the problem." He paused. "The problem is that he will not let anyone treat him. He is violent, aggressive, and completely unresponsive to communication. He has injured 3 doctors and 5 nurses in the past 2 days. We have had to keep him sedated, but the sedatives are losing effect. His metabolism is adapting." Ji-woo felt a chill run down her spine. "What do the Valorian diplomats say?" "They are demanding we provide the best care possible. They have made it very clear that if we let him die, they will consider it an act of neglect, maybe even an act of war." Dr. Taemin looked directly at Ji-woo. "No one else will take this case. I am asking you because you have experience with difficult patients, and because you do not scare easily." Ji-woo thought about it. She had dealt with challenging cases before. Patients who were frightened, confused, or in pain often lashed out. But this was different. This was a trained warrior from a species known for their brutality. Still, something in the image caught her attention. The red, pulsing light along the creature's body. It looked like pain. It looked like suffering. "I will do it," she said quietly. Dr. Taemin let out a long breath. "Thank you. But Ji-woo, I need you to understand. This creature is dying. He may be beyond reach. Do not risk your life unnecessarily." Ji-woo nodded and stood. "When can I start?" "Now, if you are ready." Ji-woo left Dr. Taemin's office and headed for the containment ward. On the way, she passed her friend Hana, who was checking inventory in the supply room. Hana looked up and immediately saw something in Ji-woo's expression. "What happened?" Hana asked. "I have a new patient. The Valorian." Hana's eyes went wide. "Ji-woo, no. That thing is a monster. It nearly killed Dr. Park yesterday, broke his arm in 3 places. It is not a monster, Jiwoo said firmly. It is a patient. And it is suffering. Hana grabbed her arm. Please be careful. I do not want to lose you. Jiwoo smiled softly. I will be. I promise. The containment ward was in the lowest level of the station, where the most dangerous patients were kept. Security was tight. Commander Kyung-soo, the military liaison, met her at the entrance. He was a stern man in his 40s, with graying hair and a permanent frown. Nurse Jiwoo, he said, I heard you volunteered. I respect your courage, but I must advise against this. That creature is unstable. I understand the risks, Commander, Jiwoo said. Kyung-soo studied her for a moment, then nodded. Very well. But I will be monitoring from the observation room. At the first sign of danger, I am pulling you out. Understood? Understood. The door to the containment room was thick, reinforced steel. Through the small window, Jiwoo could see the Valorian inside. He was no longer strapped to the bed. Instead, he crouched in the far corner of the room, his massive body tense, his 4 eyes glowing in the dim light. The bioluminescent markings on his body pulsed rapidly, shifting between red and dark purple. Jiwoo took a deep breath and pressed her hand to the door panel. It opened with a heavy clunk. She stepped inside. The smell hit her first. Blood, antiseptic, and something else. Something alien and sharp. The Valorian's head snapped toward her immediately. All 4 eyes locked onto her small human form. A low rumbling sound came from deep in his chest. It sounded like rocks grinding together. Jiwoo did not run. She did not reach for a weapon or call for help. Instead, she stood still, her hands at her sides, and spoke. Hello, she said in Korean, her voice soft. My name is Jiwoo. I am here to help you. The rumbling grew louder. The creature's claws scraped against the floor as he shifted his weight. Jiwoo could see the wounds on his body now. Deep cuts that had been hastily sealed, burns across his armored plating. One of his lower arms hung at an odd angle. She switched to the Valorian language, or at least the basic phrases she had studied. Her pronunciation was terrible, but she tried. Help. No harm. Please. The Valorian moved. Fast. Faster than something that large should be able to move. He crossed the room in 2 bounds and stopped directly in front of her. His massive form loomed over her, his breath hot against her face. His mandibles clicked inches from her nose. Every instinct in Jiwoo's body screamed at her to run, to scream, to fight. But she stood perfectly still. She looked up into those 4 alien eyes and saw something there. Not just rage, not just pain. There was intelligence. There was awareness. There was fear. It is okay, she whispered. I am not going to hurt you. For a long moment, nothing moved. The world seemed to hold its breath. Then, slowly, the Valorian took 1 step back, then another. He retreated to his corner, never taking his eyes off her. His bioluminescent markings shifted to a dark blue. Jiwoo remained standing where she was. Her heart pounded in her chest, but she kept her breathing steady. In the observation room, she knew Commander Kyung-soo and the medical staff were probably having heart attacks. But something told her that she had just passed some kind of test. She pulled a small stool from the wall and sat down, keeping her movements slow and predictable. The Valorian watched her with those unblinking eyes. She began to talk. She told him about the weather on Earth, about her grandmother's garden in Busan, about anything and everything that came to mind. Her voice filled the silence. The Valorian did not respond, but he did not attack either. And for now, that was enough. 5 days had passed since Jiwoo first entered the containment room. She now spent 16 hours each day with the Valorian, leaving only to sleep and eat. The medical staff thought she was crazy. Even Hana worried that Jiwoo was pushing herself too hard. But Jiwoo could not explain the feeling she had. Something told her that this patient needed her in a way no one else did. She had started calling him Dae in her mind. It was a Korean word, meaning great or big. His actual designation was V7743, which felt cold and impersonal. She never said the name out loud, but thinking of him as Dae made him seem less like a monster and more like a person. The first 2 days had been difficult. Dae remained in his corner, watching her with those 4 unblinking eyes. He refused food. He refused water. When Jiwoo tried to approach his wounds, he would growl and bare his mandibles. She learned quickly to read his body language. When his bioluminescent markings turned deep red, he was agitated. When they pulsed rapidly, he was in pain. When they dimmed to almost black, he was exhausted. On the 3rd day, Jiwoo brought her meal into the room. She sat on her stool and ate slowly, talking as she always did. She talked about her childhood, about learning to swim in the ocean, about her mother's cooking. As she ate, she noticed Dae's eyes following her movements. His markings had shifted to a dull orange color she had not seen before. "Are you hungry?" she asked gently. She held out a piece of fruit. "I know this is not Valorian food, but it is sweet. You might like it." Dae did not move, but his eyes stayed on the fruit. Jiwoo set it on the floor between them and went back to eating. 10 minutes later, when she pretended not to look, Dae reached out one massive claw and dragged the fruit closer. He sniffed it, then ate it in one bite. By the 4th day, Dae was accepting food regularly. Jiwoo brought him specially prepared meals designed for Valorian biology, delivered by nervous staff who refused to enter the room. Dae would wait until Jiwoo set the food down and stepped back before he ate. His wounds were healing slowly, but they were healing. The broken arm was still a problem. Jiwoo knew it needed to be set properly, but she could not get close enough. It was on the 5th day that Jiwoo noticed something strange. She had been humming while she worked, organizing her medical supplies. It was an old Korean lullaby her mother used to sing. She did not even realize she was doing it until she saw Dae's markings change. They were pulsing in rhythm, with her humming, perfectly synchronized. Jiwoo stopped humming. The markings stopped pulsing. She hummed again. The markings pulsed again. Her heart raced. She pulled out her datapad and quickly searched the Valorian biological database. There was limited information. Valorians were secretive about their biology, but there was one small note that caught her eye. Bioluminescent patterns may serve communicative function. Further study needed. Jiwoo stood up slowly. Dae's eyes tracked her movement. She walked to the light control panel on the wall and dimmed the room lights. Then, she programmed a simple pattern, a slow pulse of blue light from the ceiling panels. Dae's entire body went still. His markings began to pulse in response, matching the blue light. Then, slowly, his markings changed. They created a wave pattern that flowed from his head down his body, then back up. It was beautiful. Jiwoo changed the light pattern. Dae's markings changed too. They were communicating. Somehow, through light, they were communicating. She spent the next hour experimenting with different patterns. Dae responded to each one, sometimes mimicking her patterns, sometimes creating his own. Jiwoo felt tears in her eyes. He was not unreachable. He was not broken beyond repair. He was just speaking a language no one had bothered to learn. That evening, Jiwoo met with Dr. Taemin and Commander Kyung-soo. She explained what she had discovered. Dr. Taemin looked amazed. Commander Kyung-soo looked skeptical. "This is significant," Dr. Taemin said. "If we can establish real communication, we might be able to treat him properly." There is a problem," Commander Kyung-soo said. He pulled up a message on the wall screen. "Valorian officials are arriving in 3 days to retrieve their warrior. Alive or dead? Alive or dead?" Ji-woo felt her stomach drop. 3 days? That is not enough time. I am sorry, Ji-woo, Dr. Taemin said. But this is a diplomatic matter now. The Valorians want their warrior back. Ji-woo shook her head. He is not ready. He is still recovering. And we have just started to make real progress. I understand, Commander Kyung-soo said. But we have no choice. The Valorians are not known for their patience. Ji-woo returned to the containment room that night, feeling defeated. Dae was resting in his corner, his markings a calm green color. She sat on her stool and looked at him. He opened his eyes and watched her. They are coming for you, she said softly. Your people. In 3 days. She did not know if he understood her words, but she needed to say them. I wish I had more time. I wish I could help you more. Dae's markings shifted to a deep blue, the sad color. He understood something was wrong. Ji-woo made a decision. If she only had 3 days, she would make them count. She stood and walked slowly toward Dae. His markings flickered to orange. A warning. But Ji-woo kept moving. She stopped, just out of reach of his claws. I need to fix your arm, she said. I know it hurts. I know you are scared. But I promise, I will be gentle. Dae's 4 eyes stared at her. His breathing was heavy. Ji-woo could see his muscles tense, ready to strike or flee. But she did not move back. She simply held out her hand, palm up, showing she had no weapons. Please, she whispered. Trust me. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then, slowly, Dae extended his broken arm toward her. His markings pulsed with rapid orange and blue, fear and pain mixed together. But he was letting her help. Ji-woo's hands trembled as she examined the arm. The break was bad, but she could work with it. She pulled out her medical tools and began to work. Dae's markings flared red several times, and he growled deep in his chest. But he did not pull away. He did not attack. He sat there and let her help him. 2 hours later, the arm was set and wrapped in a specialized brace. Ji-woo stepped back, exhausted. Dae pulled his arm close to his body, examining the brace. His markings shifted through several colors before settling on a soft purple. Ji-woo did not know what purple meant, but it felt like gratitude. She sat back down on her stool and smiled. You are welcome, she said. Dae made a sound. It was not a growl or a rumble. It was something new. It sounded almost like he was trying to form words. His mandibles clicked in a complex pattern. Ji-woo leaned forward, listening carefully. The sound came again. It was rough, broken, but it was there. A word, or part of a word. Ji. Ji-woo's breath caught. Was he trying to say her name? But before she could respond, Dae's markings suddenly went dark. He collapsed onto his side, unconscious. Ji-woo jumped up and scanned him with her medical device. His vitals were stable. He had simply exhausted himself. She covered him with a thermal blanket and dimmed the lights. As she left the room that night, she looked back at the massive warrior sleeping in the corner. In 3 days, the Valorians would come, and Ji-woo had no idea what would happen then. But for the first time since this began, she had hope. Dae was reaching back, and that meant everything. 2 days remained before the Valorian officials arrived. Ji-woo barely slept. She spent every possible moment with Dae, trying to build on the progress they had made. He was responding better now. He ate when she brought food. He allowed her to check his wounds. His broken arm was healing well in the brace. But something was still wrong. She could feel it. Dae would not attempt communication beyond the light patterns. He never tried to make that sound again, the one that might have been her name. When Ji-woo tried to engage him with more complex light sequences, he would respond for a few minutes before retreating into himself. His markings would go dark, and he would turn away from her. It was like watching someone give up. Ji-woo needed help. She contacted Professor Eun-ji, the station's xenolinguistics expert. Unji was a small woman in her 60s with sharp eyes and a brilliant mind. She had studied over 40 alien languages and cultures. If anyone could help Ji-woo understand what was happening with Dae, it would be her. They met in the observation room overlooking the containment ward. Through the window, they could see Dae sitting motionless in his corner. His markings were barely visible. Just a faint, gray glow. "Tell me everything," Professor Yoonji said. Ji-woo explained the past week. The violence at first. The slow progress. The discovery of light-based communication. The moment when Dae seemed to try speaking her name. And now, the withdrawal. Professor Yoonji listened carefully, her fingers steepled under her chin. When Ji-woo finished, the professor was quiet for a long moment. "What do you know about Valorian culture?" Unji finally asked. "Not much," Ji-woo admitted. "They are warriors. They are proud. They do not like to show weakness." "That is the surface," Yoonji said. "But there is more. Valorians have a strict caste system. Warriors, like your patient, are conditioned from birth never to retreat, never to surrender, and never to show fear or weakness. It is not just cultural. It is psychological conditioning. Breaking these rules brings deep shame, not just to the individual but to their entire family line." Ji-woo felt a cold weight settle in her stomach. What happens to warriors who break these rules? Usually, they do not survive long enough for it to matter. Valorians fight to the death. Yoonji looked through the window at Dae. "But your patient survived something, and whatever it was, it broke him. He retreated. He showed weakness. He allowed himself to be captured and brought here." She paused. "If he returns to his people in this state, they may execute him for dishonor." "No," Ji-woo breathed. "That is why he will not communicate. He does not want to get better. He wants to die here." "No," Professor Yoonji nodded slowly. "I believe so. You have been trying to heal his body, but his mind is where the real damage is. And I do not know if that can be fixed." Ji-woo stood up. "I have to try. I cannot just let him give up." "What will you do?" Yoonji asked. Ji-woo looked at Dae through the window. "Something I should have done before. I am going to be honest with him." That night, Ji-woo entered the containment room with no medical equipment, no food. Just herself. Dae lifted his head when she entered. His markings flickered briefly with a dull blue. Ji-woo pulled her stool close to where Dae sat. Closer than she had ever dared before. She sat down and folded her hands in her lap. For a moment, she did not speak. She just breathed. "I lost my brother," she finally said. Her voice was quiet. "His name was June. He was younger than me by 3 years. We grew up together on a colony world near the Outer Rim. It was peaceful there. Beautiful." Dae's markings brightened slightly. He was listening. "I was 17 when the raiders came. Pirates, scavengers. We never knew exactly who they were. They attacked without warning. June and I were in the market when it happened. There was fire and screaming and people running everywhere." Ji-woo's voice shook. She had not talked about this in years. June fell. Someone knocked him down in the panic. He was right there, on the ground, reaching for me. And I froze. Tears began to fall down Ji-woo's cheeks. She did not wipe them away. I just stood there. I was so scared that I could not move, could not think. By the time I finally reached for him, the crowd had swept him away. They found his body 3 days later. He was 14 years old. "That works." Jun stay. The room was silent except for the soft hum of the life support systems. Ji-woo took a shaky breath. "Everyone told me it was not my fault, that there was nothing I could have done. But I know the truth. I froze when he needed me. I failed him." She looked up at Dae. "That is why I became a nurse. I needed to prove that I could save people, that I would not freeze again. But some nights, I still see his hand reaching for me." And I still feel like I am that scared 17-year-old girl who let her brother die. As she spoke, Day's markings began to change. The gray faded. Colors swirled across his body in patterns Jiwoo had never seen before. Blues and purples and deep greens mixing together. He made a sound. That low, mournful harmonic that vibrated through the floor. Then Day moved. He uncurled from his corner and shifted closer to Jiwoo. His massive, clawed hand reached out slowly, carefully, and touched her shoulder. The touch was gentle, almost tender. Jiwoo looked up at him through her tears. Day's 4 eyes met hers. And then, he spoke. Ji-woo, her name. Clear and unmistakable. In Korean. Exactly as she pronounced it. Not in Valorian, or the trade language. He had learned it. He had been listening to every word she said. Day, she whispered, using the name she had kept private until now. His mandibles clicked softly. He understood. He accepted it. Then, slowly, Day began to communicate. He used light patterns, gestures with his hands, and broken fragments of words in multiple languages. It was difficult to follow. But Jiwoo focused with everything she had. And gradually, a story emerged. Day's unit had been on a routine patrol when they were ambushed, but it was not a normal attack. The enemy used some kind of technology that Day did not understand. It got inside his head, inside all their heads. It made them see things that were not there, made them believe their brothers were enemies. Day's markings flashed violent red as he continued. He showed Jiwoo through gesture how he had fought, how he had killed his own squad, his brothers, one by one, while something else controlled his body. He regained control only after the last one fell. He woke up, surrounded by their bodies, covered in their blood. The shame was unbearable. The pain was unbearable. So he did the only thing that made sense to him. He came to this neutral station to die, away from his people, where his death would not bring shame to his family. When Day finished, he collapsed back against the wall. His entire body shook. His markings were a chaotic mess of colors. Jiwoo stood up. She stepped forward until she was right in front of him. This massive alien warrior, who had been through something no one should have to endure. She reached out and placed both her hands on his armored chest, right over where she guessed his heart would be. "Listen to me, Day," she said firmly. "What happened to you was not your fault. You were not in control. You did not choose to hurt them." Day's markings pulsed with angry red. He made a harsh clicking sound. Jiwoo understood. He was arguing. He believed he should have been stronger. Should have resisted. "No," Jiwoo said. "You do not get to give up. Not on my watch. I failed my brother, and I have to live with that every day. But I live, Day. I keep going. I help other people. I try to make his death mean something by saving lives he would have wanted saved." She took a breath. "You cannot change what happened. But you can choose what happens next. You can give up and die here. Or you can live. You can carry the pain and still keep walking. That is what humans do. We break, and then we choose to keep going anyway." Day's 4 eyes stared at her. His markings slowly shifted to a deep, dark blue, the color of sadness. But also, Jiwoo thought, the color of understanding. "You do not have to face this alone," Jiwoo said softly. "I am here, and I am not leaving you. Jiwoo, 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 Jiwoo." For the first time since Jiwoo had met him, Day's markings shifted to a color she had never seen. A soft, warm gold. It pulsed gently, like a candle flame. He reached out and touched her face with one careful claw, and in a voice like grinding stones trying to be soft, he spoke 3 words in broken Korean. "Not alone. Together." Jiwoo smiled through her tears. "Together." she agreed. They sat together in the quiet containment room as the station's night cycle deepened around them. Tomorrow, the Valorians would arrive. Tomorrow, everything would change. But tonight, a broken warrior and a wounded healer found something that neither had expected. They found hope. The Valorian delegation arrived exactly when they said they would. 3 massive ships appeared in orbit around the station, their dark hulls bristling with weapons. They sent no friendly greeting. They simply demanded docking clearance and got it. No one wanted to argue with the Valorians. Jiwoo stood in the medical bay, watching through the window as 3 Valorian officials stepped off their shuttle. They were all warriors, each one as large as day, their armor polished and perfect. The leader was especially intimidating. His armor was decorated with symbols Jiwoo did not recognize, and his bioluminescent markings pulsed with confident red and gold patterns. Commander Kyung-soo met them at the airlock with a security team. Dr. Tae-min stood beside him, looking small and nervous. Jiwoo had been ordered to stay away from the meeting, but she refused. If they were going to take Dae, she needed to be there. The Valorian leader spoke in the trade language, his voice deep and resonant. "I am War Master Krelthos. We have come for Warrior Fief 7,743. Produce him immediately." "Of course, Doctor," Tae-min said, his voice carefully polite. "But I must inform you that the patient is still recovering from severe injuries. We recommend at least another week of treatment before he is moved." "Your recommendation is noted and rejected," Krelthos said. "We will evaluate the warrior ourselves. Take us to him." 21. They walked through the station corridors in tense silence. Jiwoo followed a few steps behind, her heart pounding. She had spent the last 12 hours with Dae, preparing him for this moment. He knew they were coming, but she did not know how he would react. When they reached the containment ward, Krelthos stopped and turned to Dr. Tae-min. "I will see him alone first. Then my companions will conduct their evaluation. I am afraid I cannot allow that." "Doctor," Tae-min said, "station protocol requires medical staff to be present during all patient interactions." Krelthos's markings flared bright red. "You dare tell me what I can and cannot do?" "It is not about authority," Jiwoo said, stepping forward. Everyone turned to look at her. "It is about safety. Your warrior has been through trauma. Seeing unfamiliar Valorians might trigger a defensive response." Krelthos looked down at Jiwoo like she was an insect. "And who are you?" "I am Nurse Jiwoo. I have been caring for him since he arrived." "A human," Krelthos said with clear disdain. "A soft species. You expect me to believe you have succeeded where Valorian medical staff would fail." "I do not expect anything," Jiwoo said calmly. "But I know my patient, and I know he is not ready for this. And that is not your decision to make." Krelthos pushed past her and activated the door to the containment room. It slid open. Inside, Dae was standing in the center of the room. He had clearly heard them coming. His markings were cycling rapidly through warning colors, red and orange mixing in agitated patterns. When he saw Krelthos and the other Valorians, his entire body tensed. A deep growl rumbled from his chest. "V-7743. Krelthos said sharply. "Stand down. I am War Master Krelthos. I have come to bring you home." Dae's response was immediate and violent. He roared, a sound that shook the walls, and charged at the Valorians. His claws extended, his mandibles opened wide. The 2 warriors with Krelthos drew weapons. Commander Kyung-soo's security team raised their rifles. "No!" Jiwoo shouted. She ran between Dae and the Valorians, her arms spread wide. "Dae, stop. Please." Dae skidded to a halt inches from Jiwoo. His 4 eyes were wild, unfocused. His markings were pure red, the color of rage and fear. But he stopped. He did not hurt her. "Jiwoo, get out of there. Commander Kyung-soo yelled. "Everyone lower your weapons," Ji-woo said, her voice surprisingly steady despite her racing heart. "You are scaring him. Thank you for watching. Tenyu Cap Genser. You are scaring him. He is a warrior, not a child," Krelthos said, but he gestured for his companions to stand down. V. 7,743. What is the meaning of this? Why do you attack your own kind? Day's only response was another growl. His markings did not calm. Ji-woo realized what was happening, seeing the Valorian officials being spoken to in that commanding tone. It was triggering memories. Memories of his squad, of the battle, of everything that went wrong. She turned to Krelthos. "Please, let me calm him down. Then we can talk." Krelthos looked like he wanted to argue, but Dr. Taemin spoke up. "War Master, I have reviewed the medical records. The patient suffered severe neural trauma. This reaction may be a symptom. Please allow Nurse Ji-woo to help." Krelthos's markings shifted to a skeptical yellow. "You have 5 minutes." Ji-woo turned back to Day. She reached up slowly and placed her hand on his armored chest, just as she had the night before. "Day, look at me. It is Ji-woo. You are safe." Day's 4 eyes finally focused on her face. His breathing was ragged, but his markings began to slow, their frantic pulsing. "Breathe with me," Ji-woo said. She took a deep breath, exaggerating the movement. In, out, in, out. Slowly, Day's breathing matched hers. His markings shifted from pure red to orange, then to blue. The panic was fading. Ji-woo began to program light patterns on her small portable device, the one she had been using to communicate with him. Soft, calming waves of blue and green. Day's markings responded, matching her patterns. The tension in his body eased. He stepped back from Ji-woo and sat down heavily on the floor. "There," Ji-woo said quietly. "That is better." She turned to face the Valorians. Krelthos was staring at her with an expression she could not read. "How did you do that?" he asked. "I learned to communicate with him," Ji-woo said. "Through light patterns. And by earning his trust." Krelthos stepped into the room, moving carefully now. He studied Day, who watched him warily but did not attack. V. 7,743. I need you to report on what happened during your mission. Day's markings immediately darkened. He turned his head away. "That is an order, warrior," Krelthos said more firmly. Day made a harsh clicking sound. Ji-woo recognized it. It was the Valorian equivalent of refusal. Krelthos's markings flared red. "This is unacceptable. A warrior must always report." V. 7,743. You are bringing shame to your family line. At those words, Day's entire body shuddered. His markings went almost black. He curled in on himself, making himself as small as possible. Ji-woo felt rage building in her chest. "Stop," she said. "You are making it worse. This does not concern you, human," Krelthos said. "He is my patient. That makes it very much my concern. He is a Valorian warrior. He belongs with his people. He belongs wherever he will be safe and cared for," Ji-woo shot back. "And right now, that is here." The tension in the room was thick enough to cut. Commander Kyung-soo stepped forward carefully. "Perhaps we should continue this discussion elsewhere. Let the patient rest." 4. Thanks for watching. We are menders of video. They retreated to a conference room. Ji-woo, Dr. Taemin, Commander Kyung-soo on one side, Krelthos and his 2 warriors on the other. The argument went in circles for an hour. Krelthos demanded they release Day immediately. Dr. Taemin cited medical protocols. Ji-woo insisted that Day was not ready. Finally, Krelthos stood. "Enough. I am taking V. 7,743 with us. If he is truly damaged beyond repair, he will face judgment from the War Council." That is our way. Your way will kill him, Jiwoo said quietly. Then he will die with honor instead of living in shame. There is no honor in giving up on someone who is suffering. Krelthos looked at her for a long moment. You humans are weak. You coddle the broken. In Valorian society, only the strong survive. Maybe that is why Day is still alive, Jiwoo said. Because humans do not abandon people just because they are broken. Before Krelthos could respond, the door opened. A new figure entered. She was human, tall and elegant, wearing diplomatic robes. Ambassador Yoonji. She was Earth's representative to the Galactic Council and one of the most skilled negotiators in human space. Forgive my interruption, Yoonji said smoothly. I received word of the situation and came as quickly as I could. War Master. Krelthos. It is an honor to meet you. Krelthos inclined his head slightly. Ambassador. This is a Valorian matter. Of course. But it is also a matter of interspecies medical law, which falls under my jurisdiction. Yoonji sat down at the table. I have a proposal. One that might satisfy everyone. I am listening, Krelthos said. Yoonji smiled. Let the warrior choose his fate. Fucking about. The room went silent. Krelthos's markings cycled through several colors before settling on confused purple. Warriors do not choose. They obey. Perhaps it is time for a new tradition, Yoonji said. You want to know if V7743 can be salvaged? Nurse Jiwoo believes he can be helped. The only way to know for certain is to ask him what he wants. Krelthos considered this. Finally, he nodded. Very well. But if he chooses to return with us, you will not interfere. Agreed, Yoonji said. They returned to the containment room. Day was still sitting on the floor, his markings a dull gray. Jiwoo approached him slowly. Day, they want to know what you want. Do you want to go with them? Back to your people? Day's 4 eyes looked at her. Then, at Krelthos. Then, back at Jiwoo. Slowly, he began to create light patterns. Jiwoo watched carefully, translating. He says, he does not want to die, Jiwoo said. He wants to understand how humans survive carrying their failures. How I continue after losing my brother. Jiwoo. Jiwoo. She paused, watching more patterns. He is asking. He wants to learn what humans call forgiveness. Krelthos made a sharp sound. There is no word for that in our language. I know, Jiwoo said softly. Day stood. His movements were slow but deliberate. He looked at Krelthos and created a final pattern. Jiwoo. Translated. Her voice shaking. He requests asylum. He wants to stay here and learn humanity's healing ways. The room erupted. Krelthos roared in outrage. His warriors reached for weapons. Commander Kyungsu's security team responded. But Ambassador Yoonji raised her hand. You agreed to let him choose, she said calmly. Krelthos's markings were violent red. But slowly, very slowly, they faded to orange, then yellow. He looked at Day with what might have been disappointment, or might have been disgust. Very well, he said finally. But know this. V7743. You are now outcast. You have no family, no honor, no home. Day's markings pulsed once with deep blue. But he did not look away. Krelthos turned and left. His warriors followed. As they disappeared down the corridor, Jiwoo let out a breath she had been holding. Day sank back to the floor. His markings were chaotic, cycling through a dozen colors. Jiwoo sat beside him and took his massive clawed hand in her small human ones. We will figure this out, she promised. Together, Day's markings slowly shifted to that warm gold, and in his broken, grinding voice, he whispered one word. Together. 4 months had passed since Day made his choice. The news had spread through both human and Valorian space like wildfire. A Valorian warrior choosing exile to stay with humans. Some called it shameful. Others called it fascinating. The Galactic Council had been forced to create new protocols for what they officially termed cross-species cultural rehabilitation. Ambassador Yunji had negotiated brilliantly. Day was not labeled a deserter or a refugee. Instead, he became the first participant in an experimental xenocultural exchange program. It was a polite fiction that allowed the Valorians to save face. Day was not running away. He was researching, studying human psychology and medicine. It was thin reasoning, but it worked. Jiwoo was officially assigned as his cultural liaison. It meant she spent most of her time with Day, helping him adjust to life among humans. It was not easy. The station's crew had mixed reactions to having a Valorian warrior living among them. Some were curious. Many were afraid. A few were openly hostile. Day noticed. How could he not? When he walked through the corridors, people stepped aside. Conversations stopped. Children stared. He made himself as small as possible, keeping his markings to neutral grays and blues. But Jiwoo could see the toll it took on him. One evening, she found him sitting alone in the observation deck, staring out at the stars. His markings were dark blue, the sad color. She sat beside him, without speaking. "They fear me," Day said after a long silence. His speech had improved dramatically over the months. The words still came out rough and slow, but they were clear. "I do not blame them. I would fear me too. They do not understand you yet," Jiwoo said. "Give them time." "Time," Day repeated. He turned his 4 eyes to her. "How much time did it take you to stop fearing me?" Jiwoo thought about that first day in the containment room. The massive warrior charging at her. The terror she had felt but refused to show. "About 30 seconds, she said honestly. "Once I looked in your eyes and saw that you were afraid too." Day's markings shifted to a soft purple. "You are strange, Jiwoo. All humans are strange. Thank you," Jiwoo said with a smile. But it was not just the other humans who struggled with Day's presence. The few Valorians who came through the station treated him like he was invisible, or worse, like he was contaminated. Once, a Valorian merchant actually spat at his feet while passing. Day's markings had gone completely black for 3 days after that. Jiwoo worried about him. But she also saw progress. Day was learning. He attended medical lectures, sitting in the back and taking notes with careful claw marks on a datapad. He studied human psychology texts, often asking Jiwoo to explain concepts that had no Valorian equivalent. Words like compassion, empathy, forgiveness. "Your language has so many words for caring," Day observed one day. "Valorian has one word. Roughly it translates to duty to one's unit. That is the closest we come." "Is that what you felt for your squad?" Jiwoo asked. "Duty?" Day was quiet for a long time. "I do not know anymore. I remember fighting beside them, training with them. But were they my brothers? Because I cared for them? Or because I was conditioned to protect the unit?" His markings pulsed with confused yellow. Humans make things complicated. Despite the difficulties, Day found an unexpected ally in Hana. Jiwoo's friend had been terrified of Day at first. But Hana was also endlessly curious. She started leaving small gifts outside Day's quarters. Human foods to try. Music recordings. Picture books that explained human customs. At first, Day did not know what to make of these offerings. But gradually, he began to leave his own gifts in return. Smooth stones he had polished. Drawings of bioluminescent patterns with their meanings explained in his improving handwriting. One day, Hana worked up the courage to knock on his door. Day answered, his markings flickering with surprise. "I brought you tea," Hana said, holding up a container. "Jiwoo said you liked the jasmine kind." "I do," Day said. "Thank you, Hana." They sat together in Day's quarters, drinking tea in comfortable silence. It became a weekly tradition. Professor Unji also took an active interest in Day's progress. She worked with him on communication. helping him understand the subtle differences between human languages and cultures. Day was a dedicated student. He practiced constantly, filling notebooks with phrases and their meanings, but the real breakthrough came unexpectedly. Dr. Taemin called Jiwoo to his office one morning. She found him with a concerned expression. "We have a difficult case," he said. "A young, human soldier. His name is Min-sok. He was involved in a skirmish near the border. Same area where Day's unit was attacked. Actually," Jiwoo felt her stomach tighten. "What happened?" "Neural trauma. Similar to what Day experienced. The enemy used that same technology, made him attack his own squad." "Doctor," Taemin rubbed his eyes. "He has been sedated for 3 weeks. When we try to wake him, he becomes violent, hurts himself, hurts others. We have tried everything. What do you need from me?" Jiwoo asked. "I do not know if I need you," Dr. Taemin said slowly. "I think I need Day." Everyone. Jiwoo found Day in the medical library, reading a text on post-traumatic stress. She explained the situation. Day listened carefully, his markings cycling through thoughtful colors. "You want me to help him?" Day said. "It was not a question. Only if you are ready," Jiwoo said. "I know this might bring up difficult memories." Day stood. "If I cannot help someone who suffered as I did, then what was the point of surviving?" They went to the psychiatric ward together. Min-seok was in a private room, restrained to prevent him from hurting himself. He was young, maybe 20 years old. His eyes were open but unfocused. Sweat covered his face. His hands clenched and unclenched constantly. Jiwoo started to approach, but Day stopped her with a gentle touch. "Let me." Day walked slowly to Min-seok's bedside. The young man's eyes tracked the movement, registering the massive alien form. Fear flashed across his face. He tried to pull away from the restraints. "Min-seok," Day said in careful Korean. His accent was still thick, but the words were clear. "I understand. I was broken too. You are not alone." Min-seok's struggling slowed, his eyes focused on Day's face, really seeing him for the first time. "I killed my brothers," Day continued. "The enemy made me do it. Made me watch through my own eyes while my body killed them. I know what you are feeling. The shame. The pain. The wish to die rather than remember." A sound escaped Min-seok's throat. Half sob, half scream. "But you do not have to die," Day said. He reached out with one massive claw and carefully, gently, touched Min-seok's restrained hand. "You can live. You can carry this and still walk forward. I learned that from humans, from Jiwoo. She carries the death of her brother every day, but she also carries hope, life, the will to help others." Tears were streaming down Min-seok's face now. "How?" he whispered. "One day at a time," Day said. "One moment at a time. And you do not do it alone. That is the human way. They do not abandon their broken." Day's markings shifted to that warm gold color. The hope color. Min-seok stared at the patterns, mesmerized. "It is beautiful," Min-seok whispered. "It is how my people communicate emotion," Day explained. "This color means hope. Do you feel it?" Min-seok was quiet for a long time. Then, slowly, he nodded. Jiwoo watched from the doorway, tears in her own eyes. Dr. Taemin stood beside her, equally moved. Over the next weeks, Day visited Min-seok every day. They talked, sometimes for hours. Sometimes they just sat in silence. Day's markings, pulsing with calm, reassuring patterns. Slowly, Min-seok began to heal. He started talking to the human therapists, started eating again, started sleeping without nightmares. When he was finally well enough to leave the psychiatric ward, the first thing he did was find Day and hug him. Day's markings flashed with surprised orange, then shifted to happy yellow. He carefully wrapped his arms around the small human, mindful of his strength. "Thank you," Min-seok said. "You saved my life." "No," Dae said. "You saved your own life. I only showed you it was possible." Word of what Dae had done spread through the station. The fear in people's eyes began to change. Not everyone warmed to him, but more people nodded in greeting when he passed. More conversations continued instead of stopping. The medical staff started consulting him on difficult cases involving trauma. Dr. Tae-min called Ji-woo to his office again 6 months after Dae's arrival. "I need to update Dae's official status," he said. "I am removing him from the patient registry." "What will his new status be?" Ji-woo asked. Dr. Tae-min smiled. "Staff member. Psychiatric specialist. If he wants it." When Ji-woo told Dae, his markings cycled through a dozen colors. Surprise, fear, hope, joy, all mixing together. "I am not qualified," Dae said. "I have no formal training." "You have lived experience," Ji-woo said. "And you have something no textbook can teach. You understand what it means to be broken and choose to heal. That makes you qualified." Dae accepted. He became a permanent member of the medical staff, working specifically with trauma patients. He was especially effective with cases others had given up on. The violent ones, the unreachable ones, the ones who had lost hope. Dae would sit with them and share his story. He would show them that survival was possible, that healing was possible. 1 year after Dae made his choice to stay, the station held a small ceremony. It was nothing official, just the medical staff gathering in the observation deck. Dr. Tae-min gave a short speech about the importance of never giving up on patients. About seeing the person, not just the symptoms. Ji-woo stood beside Dae, watching the stars through the massive windows. "Are you happy?" she asked quietly. Dae thought about the question. His markings shifted through several colors before settling on gold. "I do not know if Valorians can be happy. That is another human word we do not have. But I am. At peace. I am useful. I am helping others." "Is that the same thing?" "It is close enough," Ji-woo said with a smile. "I never thanked you," Dae said, "for not giving up on me. For seeing past the beast to the person underneath." "You did not need to be seen," Ji-woo said. "You just needed someone willing to look." They stood together in comfortable silence. Across the room, Min-seok was laughing with Hana about something. Professor Yoon-ji was showing another staff member one of Dae's notebooks filled with careful translations. Dr. Tae-min caught Ji-woo's eye and raised his glass in a small toast. "The galaxy is changing," Dae observed. "Slowly. Because of moments like this. I. Dae. I. What do you mean?" Ji-woo asked. "You helped me. I helped Min-seok. He will help someone else. And that person will help another. Like ripples in water." Dae's markings pulsed gently. "Humans call it compassion. It spreads. I think that is your real power. Not your weapons or your ships. Your stubborn refusal to give up on anyone." Ji-woo felt tears prickling at her eyes. "Even broken alien beasts?" "Especially broken alien beasts," Dae said. And if Ji-woo did not know better, she would swear he was smiling. Later that night, Ji-woo sat in her quarters updating the medical logs. She pulled up Dae's file, where it had once said, "Patient V, 7743, violent, unreachable, prognosis, terminal." It now read, "Dae, psychiatric specialist, specializing in trauma recovery and cross-species therapy." She added one final note to his file. "Proof that the galaxy's greatest weapon is not found in technology or tactics. It is found in the simple act of seeing someone's pain and refusing to look away. It is found in the stubborn, beautiful, very human choice to help someone stand back up, even when everyone else has given up. Even when that someone is a 3-meter-tall alien warrior who once seemed impossible to reach. Because in the end, nobody is truly unreachable." They just need someone willing to whisper their name. Adion sighed. Ji-woo saved the file and smiled. Tomorrow, Day would help another patient. And another. The ripples would continue spreading. In a station orbiting in neutral space, a human nurse and an alien warrior had proven something the galaxy needed to learn. That strength comes in many forms, and sometimes, the strongest thing anyone can do is simply refuse to let someone suffer alone. That, Ji-woo thought, was humanity's real gift to the stars.